My name is Jay. I'm the founder at Niche, and currently I have the managing director role. You never know when I'm going to change that role just because I do everything, but yeah, that's who I am right now. So my story goes back about, I think, 4 years, and basically I was a University of Auckland student, and there was a time when I had $10 left in my bank account and I had to make a decision between printing past papers or buying myself a kebab for lunch. And obviously when you're a student you will always eat over studying, so I went out and bought myself a lunch, which was $5 kebab, and therefore I couldn't print my past papers. And I got to think at the situation, after exam, and one of the things I realized is that, money has become a barrier between student and their education, because I was thinking that if I didn't have to make that decision, my life would have been a little easier. So back then I wasn't really planning to start a business or anything. It was more like, I just had I just wanted to work on a sort of like a project that I could leave behind. And yeah, so the printing became an issue for me. So what I did was basically made printing free at Auckland University. And what our business, well, not really a business because I wasn't really planning to start a business, but we've put like a banner advertisement at the bottom of the page. So every single page that students print with us came with a banner ad at the bottom of the page. So companies were advertising on students' printings, and students therefore was getting free printing. That was the start of my business. And we didn't really do any marketing. Like, as I said, it wasn't a business or anything. It was more like, it's a cool product, cool thing for some of my friends as well. But essentially, before I graduated, we already had thousands of students using it. And I knew that we're solving a problem for quite a lot of students. Surprisingly, a lot of students had similar problems. I didn't actually expect that. So yeah, we just accumulated a lot of users, and by the time I was graduating, had thousands of students using it. And that's when I started to think maybe I should do this full time. Maybe there's an area that I could expand out to that could help more students, not just printing issues. So we built an app that year, had a little bit of an investment from one of my investors even currently, and yeah, and that's how we sort of started. Yeah. So when I first started, I only had one engineer and one other friend that was interested in starting with me. Essentially, they don't work for the company anymore. But what happened was I was the only person. Well, I was this guy that started it, and I was the only guy that wanted to keep on going. So I had to take them out of the team, and that's when James came in, who's now the CEO from our company. And we were discussing like how, because we needed an engineer. We were technically building a tech company because we were building the software ourselves. So we needed another engineer. So I found another engineer who was a friend of James. He joined on board, and he worked us for another couple of months. He initially built our first minimal viable product, and that's how we launched. But he also left. And what happened after that was me and James were running a small lounge right next to school. That's where everyone came in to print and have a coffee, have a group meeting. So it was a cool lounge for students. But when we built that, the word started spreading at school. And we just got hit up by a lot of students wanting to sort of work with us. And that's how we started building the team. So it wasn't like I was always looking for people, but then I never found the right person when I was approaching first. But when people started approaching me, mostly students, that's when I found the right team members. So I brought them into the team, and they now everyone that joined our team back then is now working for Niche full time. So I think the right person will obviously have a different definition for everyone. For me, the right person was hardworking, sort of believe in what I believe in as the vision of the company. But the biggest thing for me was commitment, because when you're starting a business while studying, one of the trends, it became one of the trends, to be honest. And a lot of people think it's going to be easy, it's cool, it's fun, but when you're actually starting a business, it's not like that. A lot of people think I enjoy most of my job, which I tend to say I do, but when you're in the zone, you're actually not enjoying it. It's challenging, it's difficult. So the right person for me is definitely commitment, shares similar vision, and someone who I can lead and have the right skill set. So if you're looking for an engineer, you'll need an engineer. If you're looking for someone from marketing, you'll need someone from marketing. So that was, but the reason why I say commitment is actually the most important thing is because I've learned that when people are young, they can actually learn things quite fast. If it's not a very technical job, such as engineering jobs, that I believe that you need some prior skills, that you need some sort of a training before you actually take those jobs full time. But like, for example, Michael from our team, marketing, head of marketing and now head of sales, Michael has had no experience in marketing. He didn't even major in marketing, but he was really killing it. So like right people definitely has different definitions. Yeah, so the sharing vision I think is very important because it keeps you motivated. It keeps you on the right track. And I've realized how important it is for the leader and the surrounding team to be seeing the same thing. Because essentially when you have a similar vision that you're sharing, it becomes easier to make decisions because you're actually sharing the same thing, sharing the same goal. So it's actually really good to have a really concrete vision because all the decision that you're making in the company has to align with what you're going for. So I think that's why it's very important. And when you have a very concrete goal, that's when people make similar decision as the leader. That's when you can actually, that's when you can believe other people to make decisions that you would agree to. So that's why I think vision is very important. Like our vision is to add value on both sides, businesses and students, that will benefit them in both ways. So what that means is students need to connect with businesses because of their future, because they are future employers, because they want to get the deals, because they want to save money, and because they want to attend these networking and all these events that are organized by events. Now, students is a very concrete, direct benefit by connecting with businesses, and vice versa. So if you look at the business sides, they obviously consider student as someone that has the longest customer life value, and especially if you think about businesses like bank. So when you're locked in when you're young, you move into borrowing a little bit of money when you're a student, and then you get your home loan out, and that's when you're locked in forever, the rest of your life. So students definitely has a very long-term value, and that's why a lot of businesses invest into it. And it's not just about that value that students can bring into your business is actually about your future employees as well. So you want to find the best talent in the student pool, and that's what we are wanting to help businesses with. I don't enjoy everything about running a business. That's, I think a lot of people would agree. I do time to time stress out quite a bit, but then if someone asks me if I regret becoming who I am or taking my path, then I'll say definitely not. Reason being is because these days a lot of my friends come to me and say, hey, like what you're doing is something that probably is something that I want to do in the future as well. So I feel like I took this path at a much earlier stage than normal people, which I know that there are a lot of like young entrepreneurs who's even younger than me these days. But definitely I wouldn't say I regret. I actually like it. It was a good decision. But if I go back now and had to make that decision again, then I would probably think about it a little more than what I did before, just because I know I had no idea what I was getting into. Yeah, so I'll tell you about the student journey. So let's break, the market that we're focusing right now is the tertiary market, the university students. And one of the things that everyone shares is that you go into university and first year is all about meeting new people. All about meeting new people. You're in a new environment, you're in a new school. So you're there to enjoy. And usually when you enjoy, it ends up, you end up spending a lot of money. You go out to have some fun, you go out to eat good food and things like that. So it's all about saving money in your first year at university. So that's where we started with. So our strategy was to always help, solve one problem at a time. And when you look at first years, it's all about saving money. So that's exactly what we did. So we built something that will help students save money. And then you go on to your second year. That's when you start seriously thinking about your career path. What would I be doing if I graduate? That's when you start thinking, maybe I need to attend some events, or maybe I need to attend some training courses, things like that. You start thinking about these things. So you move from just saving money to attending some of these events, and potentially participating in some of the competitions that school run as well. So you want to know a little more about your career path, not just your schoolwork. That's the second year. And essentially that's what niche is going to be about in 2019, helping you find the right, right events, right training courses, right networking events with businesses. That's what we are trying to help with for second year students. Now you look at third year students and above. Those students are now seriously thinking, where can I work? The reality. They're facing the reality finally. So, and that's essentially what our platform does, right? So you connect with businesses first year, second year you're attending these events, and third year you've already established all these connection with businesses, you've been to all these events, therefore it's much easier to land a job because you've got the right network, and you can simply just you can simply follow a business on our app and get notification and when they upload a job. So you don't have to stay aware of all the things that go around you. You just need to simply connect with the right business and wait for the right timing. So that's what we do with third year and above. We pretty much tell you exactly when the job is up there for the business that you want to work for. So that's pretty much our product. Taking you from first year and all the way to third year experience. So the business part is when, so essentially it shares something quite similar, but obviously, depending on the nature of the business, your tactic will be very different. I'll give you two examples. The first one I'd say is the food providers. So these guys are not, their primary goal is not to find the best talents. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but usually these guys are more about providing, discounts and, all these things so that they can boost their revenue as well. So a lot of food providers are there to attract students through these discounts. Whereas if you look at some of the businesses, I won't mention any names, but let's say, for example, a corporate. When you look at corporate case, they don't have any discounts they can provide to students. But what they do have is all these events, all these networking things, because it does benefit them as well, because they want to find the best talents, as I said. So they want to interact with these students before even they apply to your business. So you're essentially launching these events and networking things to attract the first part of students, and then you connect with them. Later on, you send out, when you list a job on niche platform, those are the students that will get first notified. So most corporates use us to find best talents, train students, and really interact with and what we call the student engagement on our platform. So that's two different sort of scenarios that you want to look at. And that's sort of like the part that a lot of business use from our service. I think technology definitely helped us, but when you look at technology, it's always a double-edged sword. So if there's something good, there's always something bad happening as well. So I think for tech entrepreneurs, it's something that we always have to be conscious about. I can't really pick up on anything that really influenced us in a bad way, because I think most of the things that happen is actually a good thing for us. But we're in a very new field in New Zealand, especially. So we'll have to see what sort of bad negativity that we're creating. We'll have to still learn about those things. Obviously, it's something that I'll always keep my eyes on and always try to solve it. And as I said, technology is always a double-edged sword. I think we're already seeing some of the good things that's happening through our platform. But yeah, as I said, we're bound to see some bad side as well. So those are some of the things that I think are some of the things that we have to sort of solve for students and for the New Zealand community. But I don't really see anything bad, concrete, just yet. I tend to do that a lot. My position and my interest has always been in that field, and hence why I look at a lot of the trends going on. I keep up with most of the media, technology news, and I'm very interested in how the world is changing using technology itself. So so it's definitely something that I keep myself updated with. And we'll probably have to use a lot of things that is being created now. I'm not sure how, but it's something that I always keep my eyes on. Absolutely. So that's actually something that is very important for us. One of the things that we do is we have a bunch of different ambassadors around the nation, and I move around the whole country talking to them a lot. And I always want to hear what their student life is about. I think that is a very important part of our company, to understand the students, because as I said, I was lucky enough to start this business when I was a student, so market research for me was a very, very easy thing. But now that I'm away from school, I know the importance of me staying connected with these students as well. So yeah, we have ambassadors around the country, and we always talk to them about, what are some of the hot issues, what are some of the, things that going on, what are some of the things that go on in your school, in your community, yeah, so those are some of the things that I consider as very important, and as a team we always try to be updated with those things. Yes and no. Obviously, I think as you know, as someone who sets up vision for the company, I think we always need to aim high. So definitely international market is something that we're looking at. But our priority has always been within New Zealand because that's a market that we understand the most. And I believe there's a lot room for growth for us in that space. So it's you know, we're very agile. So we're very open to any opportunities out there. I think if there's anything very big out there that we might want to challenge ourselves with, then yeah, probably. But right now, I can't really say. I mean, there's a lot of things. If I had to mention two things, one is definitely experience. Well, we're a very young company. I'm quite young as well. So experience experience, I think, plays a huge part. I think, you know, finding right mentors definitely help in that field. So that's number one issue that I have always. I think that will always stay with me. Another thing that I have is the scalability of a business. So learning how to scale your business is definitely a very tricky part that I'm learning. Even though you're a technology company, as I said, we do a lot of student engagement, so therefore we do a lot of physical sort of event, you know, offline event, I should say. So running a service that is used nationwide and just about to expand nationwide with just 10 people in the company is not easy. So that's, I think, another part that I'm having difficulty with. But I've got all these mentors around me that is helping me to achieve that, my challenges. So yeah, it's something that I'm quite excited about. I think we've got a product that can actually branch out to anything. One thing that we did right was starting off by building a good user base. So we're always focused on having the right content for people on our app that will benefit them, and I think that has been sort of like a really good foundation for us, because you know, when you have a lot of students using your app, then you know, you can branch out into a lot of things. So scalability, I think, is something that we could potentially do really well. But you know, who knows what we can branch out to. Right now, we're mostly in that field where we want to really help students connect with businesses. But you know, later on, I just don't know what we're going to branch out to. You know, we have a lot of plans behind our backs, but you know, it's something that we'll have to sort of see, because I know that I've changed my plan already a lot. So I'm very, you know, I don't usually talk about my future plans that often these days, just because I know that it could potentially change, and I don't want to promise students anything just at this stage. There are too many plans that we were working on that we had to shut down. A lot of people think Niche was built quite fast, had the right product and everything, but that's actually not true. We had things that we launched and didn't work, and we just had to close down and wasted like 5 months there developing it. So we're still at that stage where we're trying to figure out the market fit. I think we've got some really good concrete answers by working with a lot of corporates and with a lot of partners and a lot of students. We now understand this market quite well. So just reflecting back on some of the things that I did that we had to close down. One of the things that I think we did was we had sort of like a forum thing that we launched that didn't go so well. We thought that was a really good idea, to be honest, back then. Didn't do so well. We had to close that down and focus on deals. So plans change. I think it's good to have a vision that you're chasing towards, but you got to be really willing to accept that sometimes you're wrong as well. And when you're wrong, and when the market says you're wrong, you need to be changing things quite fast, especially in the startup scene. So yeah, that's what we did. We closed down a few things. We worked on some of the things that was totally useless for us. So yeah, we had to change a lot of plans. I can't remember how many times we changed, but we managed to survive. And I think that's why we survived as well. We weren't stuck with one idea. We were very agile, changing plans quite fast, and adapting to the situation quite fast as well. So yeah, that's, I think, how we survived. I think the most difficult choice at a very sort of high level or managerial level will probably come from people, I think. Because when you're making a business decision, you're basing off a lot of data that you've built. When you're building a technology company, I'm not too sure how other companies make their decision, but we're really data centric. So it's quite easy for us to see what our next step is because you look at the data. But whereas in people or human resources, something that you can't really base on because everyone is different. So I'd say my most difficult decisions still come from people. You know, is this the right person to have in the team? Is this the right person for that position? And I think that's the most difficult decision that I usually face. Yeah. Most decisions actually do come from me and James. We tend to make the very big decisions between us. And everyone makes decisions, I think. We tend to give a lot of authority to people. That's just the way that I believe companies should work. You can't be micromanaging everyone. And obviously when you're new to the business, you need to learn how to make decisions. But when you're at especially with some of the heads of the departments that we have now, they tend to make really good decisions. So sometimes their decision is probably better than me, just because they understand the problem better than me. It really depends on what sort of decision it is. But very big decision obviously still comes from the board, and with the CEO James. But in terms of small decisions, I can't really say it's small because sometimes it does make a huge difference. But yeah, so that's simply how we structured things. Everyone knows where they need to make decisions, so that's basically how we do it. The board consists of 3 people, which is me, James, and our investor, Bill Smale. We usually are aligned, surprisingly. We usually don't have disagreements. And I think quite a lot of people that's on the board would actually agree with me. I'm sure there will be times where people disagree, but usually we can come to a decision. And I think that's why they're all in a board with the people that's sitting on the table making decision, because they probably share something aligned. So we didn't have a massive disagreement so far. So it has never been a very difficult thing. But if you ask me how we make decisions, we just, It really depends. It really depends on what sort of decision you're making. It really depends. So I can't really say we base on this, but we do talk about the vision a lot. This is what we wanted to do, and board usually makes decisions that will impact the business in 5, 6, a few years down the track. So yeah, that's basically how we make decisions. Yes, everyone does have some stock options, but that's not usually the prime. Well, everyone has different motivations, and I think it's the manager's role to identify what their motivation is about. So some people might be about challenges, surprisingly. Some people actually don't care about money. It's more about growth and challenges that they want to face. Some people are more about authority, what they can do in terms of decisions that could be very important. And some people could be stock ownership. So it really depends on everyone. I can't really narrow it down to one, but I think good managers are the ones that can identify these things quite fast and give them what they want. And I think New Zealand has a very good culture. Obviously, I do have an Asian background. I pretty much lived in New Zealand entire my life, but I know how some of the other countries work, especially in Asia. And one of the things that I've learned in New Zealand is that New Zealand is a very small community, so everyone is quite willing to help, which means that you can ask help from anyone. You can't land a meeting with everyone, but you can send an email to a lot of people, which can be, some of the CEOs at the top biggest companies in New Zealand. And some people might actually be quite willing to help you out, surprisingly. So New Zealand is a very good culture in that way. So I'd say definitely sort of leverage off that, hit up a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, meet a lot of people, and get a lot of advice. And Kiwis love helping each other. So that's really good thing that I think we all as New Zealanders created. But one of the downside I think you also asked is that, we are a small community. So there's quite a big limitation in what we can do with the amount of people that live in New Zealand. That could also be a good thing, bad thing. Good thing is obviously that's why we've created this good culture of helping each other. But the bad thing is that, we're quite small. So we always have to look outside of New Zealand as well. To give you an example, for example, even our product, New Zealand, I'm not actually too sure how many businesses New Zealand have, but for example, let's say for example, New Zealand has 10 businesses in the whole country. That's our market. But if you look at US, obviously there's going to be 1 million businesses. So the size of the market is completely different, and that's what I mean by limitation. We always got to look overseas. But the good thing about this is that when New Zealanders are building a product, they tend to build a product that works overseas as well. That's why I don't think it's a pure negative thing. There's some good side to it as well, but definitely that's sort of like the downside of New Zealand. It's a small market. Well, I think I've heard this from somewhere. I'm not too sure if this is completely true, but one of the person that I met at these events came to me and said, New Zealand products is very interesting because what works in New Zealand usually works outside. And I told them, I asked them, why do you think that's the case? And these people actually came to me and said, I think that's because New Zealanders understand that they need to target overseas as soon as they start, because New Zealand market is very small. So I think the good thing is that New Zealanders are building something, and I think that's why a lot of New Zealanders are building product that works overseas, because they know that New Zealand is quite limited, which gives us a huge advantage, because usually when someone starts a business in their country, they usually look at internal markets first. But New Zealanders are very different, and I think that's why New Zealand is now seeing a lot of great, successful startups that works all across the world. And I think Xero is a very good example. They made a product probably that works really well for New Zealand businesses because we have a lot of small, medium enterprises, but it's also something that works overseas as well. So, you know, immediately you're building a product that helps everyone around the globe, not just New Zealanders, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of great, successful startups. The way you should see it is you probably have to identify what the common interest is or something that they share commonly. So one good example is every student is looking for a job. I think you can't deny that wherever you go. Asia, you know, South America, like probably Africa as well, Europe, I'm pretty sure that's the case for everyone. So if you identify a common area that all the students share, that's probably something that you need to focus on, expanding your service overseas. So I think that's how you should look at it. There are things that you need to understand about the market, but what you have to focus is the common problem that all the students face across the world. And that is definitely, I think, finding the right jobs. So if I had to say something to students, I'll probably split this into two parts. First part is, it would be very helpful if everyone that's seeing this video could sort of support our business as well, because our number one sort of goal is to help students. So no matter what we do, we always focus on, does this bring value to students? So if you look at our service, everything is free for students. That's what I believe it should be. So support us. I think that's number one thing towards students. And the other one is just probably just a quick advice to everyone that's seeing the video is, I think explore the opportunity as much as possible when you're a student. That's one of the things that I didn't do so well, surprisingly. I was always sort of, stuck in one space. I was always, well, it worked out for me, but if I go back in time, I would probably challenge myself a little more, because that really got me to where I am now. So just challenge a lot. I think that's key part of, well, most important part of being a student. You need to really challenge yourself. So, those are some of the things that I would probably want to say to students. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity, actually.